Welcome to the channel. Disasters are unpredictable, but one thing you can count on is how people react, and often they panic. Most folks, especially those who aren't prepared, tend to live in denial. They assume, that could never happen to me. But when a disaster strikes, that mindset flips, and chaos takes over. One of the first things people do when their lives, or even just their daily routines, are threatened is rush to the stores. They know they're not ready for what's coming, so they scramble to grab supplies at the last minute. The problem? Everyone else has the same idea at the exact same time. Modern supermarkets, hardware stores, and big box retailers operate on just-in-time delivery systems. This means they keep only a limited stock on hand, expecting regular shipments to restock the shelves. But when a sudden surge of panicked buying happens, these systems can't keep up. Shelves empty out in no time, leaving people without the essentials they need. In today's video, we'll break down how this plays out. We'll talk about 1. The order in which essential items disappear. 2. Which items vanish no matter the disaster. 3. The specific things people grab during certain types of emergencies. Knowing this information can help you plan better. You'll be able to stock up on the most critical items for the scenarios you're most likely to face. Let's start with the number one item that always vanishes first: food. Whether it's a small weather event or a major catastrophe, food is the first thing people grab when they sense trouble. They head to the grocery stores in droves, clearing out shelves in no time. Stick around because we'll cover not just what disappears, but how you can stay ahead of the rush. Let's dive in. When it comes to disasters, whether it's hurricanes, wildfires, or even just a winter storm, people can absolutely lose their minds. It's almost comical how a little ice on the road or the mention of bad weather can spark a frenzy. The result? Shelves get cleared out as everyone rushes to stock up. What's fascinating is it's not just the shelf-stable essentials that fly off the shelves. As preppers, we focus on items with a long shelf life, things like canned goods, dried foods, and other staples. These are practical because they last beyond the immediate crisis and can even be saved for future emergencies. But the average panicked shopper? Their choices often go beyond what's truly essential. Sure, they grab the obvious things like bottled water, but they also go for perishable items like bread, milk, eggs, juice, and fresh produce, foods that may not even last through a prolonged crisis. Snacks like crackers, chips, and cookies, and even sandwich meat are among the first to vanish as well. Another surprising item that disappears fast? Sports drinks. In my area, it's common to see carts packed with sports drinks and bottled water side by side. It seems like anything remotely tied to hydration or convenience becomes a priority when panic sets in. This buying behavior highlights how unprepared many people are. Instead of focusing on sustainable, practical supplies, they grab whatever they think they'll need for the next few days, whether or not it actually makes sense. As preppers, understanding these patterns can help us stay ahead of the chaos. When disaster strikes, you can count on most grocery shelves being wiped clean. And it's not just the basics like bread and water. Another critical category of food that disappears quickly is baby food. If you have small children, you already know they can't eat just anything. Babies under 6 months rely entirely on milk or formula, making them and their families especially vulnerable during emergencies. That's why it's crucial to keep some formula on hand, even if mom is breastfeeding. You never know what could happen to mom during a disaster, and having a backup plan could literally save your child's life. But here's the thing. Not all formulas work for every baby. Some babies have sensitive stomachs and need specific types of formula. If you've already found one that works for your child, make sure to stock up on that particular variety. It might take a little extra effort, but it's worth it to ensure your baby stays healthy and fed. If you're still figuring out what works, start experimenting now. Don't wait for an emergency to find out your baby can't handle the formula you have on hand. And it's not just formula you need to think about. Other essential baby items like diapers and wipes fly off the shelves just as fast. These basics are non-negotiable for parents, so they're some of the first things to go. To help you prepare better, I've put together an ultimate stockpile checklist. It's packed with all the essential food items and supplies preppers should have ready. And the best part, it's completely free. Stay tuned to learn how you can access it and get ahead of the panic. Anyone who signs up for my newsletter can get the ultimate stockpile checklist for free. Just use the link in the description below. Now, let's talk about an item that vanishes almost immediately in a crisis. Toilet paper. We all remember the great TP shortage of recent years, right? It seems like when people sense disaster, two things come to mind: eating and wiping. Once they've secured food, they move on to toilet paper with laser focus. It might sound funny, but it's a reality. Now, while most of us don't have the space to store an entire year's worth of toilet paper, it's smart to keep a couple of extra packages on hand. That way, you'll be covered, no pun intended, during short-term emergencies, like weather-related events. Beyond TP, other disposable products like paper towels, paper plates, and plastic utensils are excellent additions to your stockpile. These items can significantly cut down on the amount of water you'll need for washing dishes, which is a huge help if water becomes a scarce resource. And don't forget trash bags, especially heavy-duty contractor bags. In a large-scale disaster, trash collection might stop, and you'll need a way to manage waste safely. These durable bags are versatile and can handle everything from food scraps to disposable plates, helping you stay clean and organized, even when things around you aren't. A little preparation with these simple items can go a long way in keeping your household running smoothly during a crisis. Stay ahead of the curve, and remember, planning now means less stress later. Another item that disappears quickly during most disasters is cash. While this is especially common during economic crises, it can also happen whenever people fear that banks or ATMs might shut down. Having cash on hand can be a lifesaver, even if you've prepared well and stocked up on essentials beforehand. Ideally, keep at least $500 at home, stored safely. Make sure it's in small denominations like $1s and $5s. This prevents you from overpaying if the person you're buying from can't or won't make change. It's a simple but effective way to ensure you're not caught off guard when you need to make a quick purchase. Another critical resource that vanishes during disasters is fuel. This is especially true during events that lead to widespread power outages. People rush to buy gasoline and diesel to keep their vehicles running or to power their generators. If you rely on either, having at least a couple of gas cans filled and ready can save you from long lines, or worse, empty pumps. And don't forget, even if gas stations are open, they often depend on electricity to run their pumps. A power outage could leave you stranded, so having fuel on hand is a practical safety net. Whether it's for your car or your generator, a little preparation goes a long way. If you ever need to get out of town during a disaster, having enough fuel is non-negotiable. And it's not just gasoline and diesel that disappear quickly. Propane is another fuel type people rush to buy. Before the last big ice storm in my area, I noticed lines of folks filling up their propane tanks. Propane is incredibly versatile. It's perfect for powering camp stoves, heaters, and even dual fuel generators. Personally, I use the gasoline I have stored first in my generator, then switch to propane. This method keeps my gas from sitting too long and lets me save my propane, which has a much longer shelf life, for when I really need it. Beyond propane, there are other fuel sources people scramble for, like butane, lamp oil, and firewood. These aren't as widely available as gas or propane, so they sell out even faster. Stores typically don't keep large stocks of these items, and they're not produced on the same scale, making it harder to restock once they're gone. That's why it's smart to build a solid stockpile of these less common fuel types in advance. If your primary fuel runs out or local supplies are delayed, having a backup can make all the difference. Whether it's firewood to stay warm or lamp oil to light your home, Preparation ensures you'll have what you need, no matter how long it takes for supplies to return to your area. When it comes to restocking fuel and heating supplies like firewood, the process can take time. If you're lucky enough to own property where you can harvest your own wood, that's fantastic, problem solved. But for those who don't, firewood availability depends on local harvesting, processing, and distribution. After a major disaster, the same people who would normally handle this work might be dealing with their own recovery efforts, which could lead to long delays. Generators are another high-demand item during disasters. We've all seen those news stories of massive lines outside hardware stores as people scramble to buy a generator before a hurricane or severe weather event. This same panic buying can happen in other scenarios, too. Essentially, anytime people think their utilities will be disrupted. The challenge with generators is their cost. Most people won't invest in one until they're desperate and absolutely need it. But here's a tip. If you can manage to get through the next disaster without one, you might score a great deal on a lightly used generator afterward. Many stores won't accept returns on used generators, and people who no longer feel the urgency may decide they don't want theirs anymore. That's when you can potentially snag one at a discount. When people anticipate power outages, they don't stop at generators. Batteries are another must-have item that flies off the shelves. Shoppers will grab all kinds of battery-powered devices, from lanterns and flashlights to fans in the summer and heaters in the winter. Camp stoves are also popular because most households rely on electric appliances for cooking. Understanding these patterns can help you prepare in advance. Stock up on essentials like batteries, lanterns, and other power outage supplies before a crisis hits. And if a generator is on your wish list, keep an eye out for deals post-disaster. You might find one without the chaos of panic buying. If the power grid goes down, having the right gear to cook and heat safely becomes essential. If you plan on using a camp stove or heater, I highly recommend picking up an adapter hose. These hoses let you connect your device to larger 20-pound propane cylinders instead of the smaller 1-pound bottles, which don't last nearly as long and sell out fast during emergencies. Candles are another item people rush to buy during blackouts, but they come with risks. House fires tend to spike during power outages, often caused by the improper use of candles. If you're relying on candles or any flame-based lighting or heating, it's crucial to stay safe. Make sure your home has working smoke alarms, and keep extra batteries for them on hand. Also, invest in fire extinguishers for emergencies. For starting fires safely, whether it's for your camp stove, heater, or fireplace, long grill-style lighters are a must. They're much safer and easier to use than regular matches or pocket lighters. Next, let's talk about something that can vanish just as quickly during a disaster: medications. If people suspect pharmacies might close, they'll scramble to refill their prescriptions. But it's not just prescription meds that disappear. Over-the-counter drugs like pain relievers, fever reducers, antacids, and children's medications are among the first to go. In winter months, cold and flu remedies like decongestants and cough syrups sell out even faster. This is also true for items like electrolyte solutions, e.g., Pedialyte, and distilled water. Electrolyte solutions are crucial for rehydration during stomach illnesses, as dehydration can quickly become life-threatening. Distilled water, on the other hand, is essential for running humidifiers, which can help relieve chest congestion, but only if you have a way to power them during an outage. The key takeaway? Prepare early. Stock up on medications, safety gear, and practical items like adapter hoses and lighters before a disaster strikes. These simple steps can make all the difference in staying safe, comfortable, and prepared. When disaster strikes or even looms on the horizon, certain items quickly disappear due to panic buying. And it's not just food and fuel. Building materials like lumber are prime examples. If people expect events like hurricanes, riots, or other situations that might damage homes, they'll rush to buy plywood, dimensional lumber, and fasteners like nails and screws. These materials are essential for boarding up windows, making repairs, or simply having on hand for emergencies. Other building-related items, such as tarps, become hot commodities in disasters involving roof damage. And before winter storms, people clear out faucet covers, pipe insulation, and other items to protect their homes from freezing temperatures. In the aftermath of storms or other disasters, tools like chainsaws and axes will also vanish quickly. These are critical for clearing fallen trees or debris, and they're in high demand during recovery periods. Another category that can disappear in certain situations is sporting goods, particularly firearms and ammunition. During events like riots or when crime rates rise nationally or locally, these items are often among the first to go. Sometimes, a political statement or a single high-profile tragedy is enough to trigger a buying spree. The demand for self-defense tools during times of uncertainty is high, and shelves can empty rapidly. But sporting goods go beyond firearms. Items like water containers, filtration systems, and outdoor survival gear are quickly snapped up when people suspect threats to water supplies. If long-term food shortages seem possible, expect items like hunting gear, fishing equipment, and even gardening tools and seeds to disappear as people try to gain more control over their food supply. Preparedness is key. Having these items before a crisis hits not only ensures you're ready, but also spares you the stress of last-minute panic buying. Whether it's reinforcing your home, ensuring access to clean water, or securing food sources, thinking ahead gives you the upper hand in any emergency. During major crises or disasters, there are always certain items that become incredibly scarce. And it's not just the usual food and water. Gas masks, for example, can suddenly become extremely popular. These items are often produced overseas, and when government agencies place huge orders, it can wipe out stock for regular folks like us. So, if things take a turn for the worse, finding gas masks and filters can be nearly impossible. Most of us remember the chaos in 2020 when cleaning and hygiene supplies were almost impossible to find. In the midst of a pandemic or another widespread health crisis, things like sanitizing wipes, soap, hand sanitizer, and even N95 masks would disappear from shelves almost immediately. Disposable gloves were also in high demand, and the ones that were available were sold at much higher prices than normal. In addition to hygiene products, common medications would also fly off the shelves in any disaster. But in an outbreak, the rush would be even more extreme. People will stock up on things like antiseptics, vitamins, and other immune-boosting supplements. The demand for these items would likely be so high that they'd be snapped up within hours. Knowing which items will disappear is just one part of being prepared. The real challenge is understanding the signs that a disaster is approaching and having a plan in place long before things go south. If you're interested in learning more about spotting the early warning signs of an impending disaster, or if you want tips on where to hide your preps for maximum safety and accessibility, click on the links to dive deeper. Thanks for stopping by, and remember, being prepared now could save you a lot of stress and hardship later. Stay safe out there.